Now, when my doctor turned around to me and said, well, there's this illness called focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, I was trying to work out whether he continued the discussion in English or it was a foreign language. He was fumbling with his notes and embarrassed, and I said, it's terminal, isn't it? So he said, yes, it is. And there was that instance. Then when I'm taken into hospital a lot because my bladder goes into spasm, or I get uncontrollable pain that needs intravenous morphine, which I can't do myself. And when the doctors sort of look through the notes and they come in and they say, the first thing I say to them is, look, I know it's terminal, so you don't have to sort of beat about the bush. And the look of relief on their faces when I've told them, it's as though, phew, thank God we don't have to go through that. People don't like giving bad news. And I believe that there is no nice way of saying it. You don't walk in and say, you're going to die. No one does that. Not unless they've got the most incredibly bad bedside manner. But you tell somebody would want to know. I know I would want to know.
A Macmillan nurse immediately came to see me to talk to me about what the chemotherapy might be, what the nursing care would be, and was exceedingly helpful. Both places were exceedingly helpful in getting straight on to ordering a blue badge for the car, so that when you're a bit of an old crock as I am, you have a disabled badge in the car, and also benefits that might be available to you. I immediately applied for, on their advice, and got a disability living allowance, which is not means tested and is an enormous help in paying for the extra help that you need in the house or this and that. I bought a wheelchair straight off, and it was about £100. That was an extremely useful thing to have, because you need to conserve your energy for seeing friends or going out, whatever. And in the early days, when I couldn't walk very much at all because I'd been in hospital for so long that the muscles in my legs rather wasted away, so I had that problem as well as the just general lack of energy. And a wheelchair meant that I could go out and about, and people could come and pick me up complete with wheelchair and take my blue badge in their car, and life would go on as near as normal. That sort of information was wonderful. I hope all hospitals give it.
I feel benefits is I waited 14 weeks for one benefit. I waited another 12 weeks for another. For what reason, I don't know. Why, I don't know. You explain the reason why you're out of work, and it seems to be, oh well, you're like 50,000 other people. But I'm not like 50,000 other people.
Where did you go to get the information on benefits?
I had to phone them.
Yeah.
I phoned them. The hospital do give out help for the benefits, but it doesn't seem to, they still seem to take as slow as they like, Okay, I'm ill, not as ill as some people, but I'm ill, a lot iller than some others. And they don't seem to appreciate that. They seem to think, everyone's pulling their leg. It's not genuine.
Mm.
And you feel informed for this, informed for that. But then, at the end of the day, they just don't seem to want to help. You try, you ask them, and it's, oh, you can do this, you can do that, and that's it. There's nobody on the other end of the phone explaining to you. It just seems very robotic, and that's it.
A friend of yours has died recently, and
Yes.
it's been making you think about the care people have when they're dying,
Yes,
and what
very much.
might be like for you. Can you tell me a bit about your thoughts on that?
Well, she had a cancer, a form of cancer. She was given hospice care. She was given her dignity. She was allowed to have her dignity when she died. She was in the hospice with her family around her, and her last few days were made wonderful, you know, taken to the cinema and days out. So her family on her last few days had days to look back at. But where with my disease and people with other diseases which aren't cancer, we don't have that. We don't have the palliative care which we should be getting. Some health authorities will have a palliative care unit, but it depends if you live in the right road, really. It's the old postcode lottery. A few miles down the road from where I live there is palliative care, but because I live 5 miles away from that, I don't get it. My social services only have ordinary home care, which is personal care. Anything else I have to ask for. There isn't a place for me to go for respite, to give my family a rest. There isn't a support to help my family prepare for what lies ahead of us. I'm having to do it all on my own and try and cope on my own and try and prepare my family on my own, when I should be really trying to take time to prepare for my ending and what I want to do and have the time to do the things, instead of losing my time preparing everybody else, when I really feel it would be helpful if somebody was there to help me prepare them and let them accept it.
There are two small points here. My hospice nurse says that she is my key worker, and I think each person with an illness of this kind needs to find out who their key worker is. One thing that she suggested to me at one stage was a TENS machine. It means trans-electrical nerve stimulation, and I was able to hire one from the local pharmacy for a week and try it out. So sometimes there are things which you might think are expensive but could be hired, and it's worth really finding out from the local pharmacy perhaps, you know, if things can be hired rather than bought.
We were talking about sort of carers on Monday night at the group, and the different way that people cope with your illness, and we all agreed that actually being the ill person was actually the easiest part of the sort of relationship, because you're ill, you're going through it, you know how you feel, and you're quite selfish in some ways because you're thinking about yourself, whereas your carer has to worry about not only worry about you, but their own feelings, how they want to look after you, support you, keep bad things from you and all that sort of thing. It's actually much more difficult for them, and there's nothing for them, there's no support for them. I think that would be a good subject to use for your thing on the internet, you know, support for carers, because that's a huge problem, isn't it? And we talked about it, and I said, you know, my husband gets upset if I make a noise, if I go, ooh, like that. He's, oh, you all right? What's hurting? And I've got so many aches and pains that an involuntary gasp like that is quite a regular occurrence. And he gets so upset, and I say, oh, it's nothing. It's just my foot or my wrist, or oh, he said, I thought it was your arm or your back, and he gets himself into such a state.
Have you got any suggestions about how staff training can improve those things that you've mentioned?
Oh yes, I think there must, as I've said, there must be taught that each patient is an individual. They're very vulnerable, they're very sensitive, and what they want is kindness. They don't want to hear, oh, I'm too busy to bring you a bedpan, or get up and go, you'll be all right. I mean, they kept saying, you can go to the toilet. And I said, well, look, I can hardly walk. I will have wet myself by the time I get there. Well, you shouldn't have to say this. I mean, patients know whether they can get out of bed and get to the toilet in time. But to be told, get up and go, and having to explain, well, I'm afraid I can't. They should know this. They should know each patient and their capabilities.
You also put a lot of stress on the importance of being listened to.
Oh, yes. Yes. They don't listen at all. They just tell you what to do. They just dictate, really. You're not a person. You have no points of view, or that you don't seem to have any feelings as far as they're concerned. You've just got cancer and they'll do this and they'll do that, and that's it.
So really what you're saying is, apart from paying attention to the physical treatment and consequences of that, to look at the person as an individual with emotions and a life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, in the old days, nurses did. And so did doctors. I mean, they'd sit by your bed. I mean, I remember when I had my appendix out when I was a teenager. Then they sat by the bed and told you what was going to happen and chatted away. But now they don't. And I've seen, masses of doctors during this year's illness. And I don't think one of them has sat and talked to me as a person.